This is the card bot. This is the beating heart of my operation, but it's just one of many tools that have completely changed my process over the years. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I use many different automation tools like the card bot, Quick List, Card Dealer Pro, M2 eCloud, and some others. I use those tools to help me save time, reduce mistakes, and turn piles of cards like this into profit. Hi, what's going on, card people? I'm Chase. This is TCG Bulk Kings, where every card has value. In order to extract that value on my own, I have to use a lot of different tools to automate a lot of the processes that are involved, or to make it efficient to batch together a lot of those processes. So we get in boxes of bulk cards, and then we have to take them and sort them out. So this, like the stack here, is all Zendikar remastered foils. We have to turn those into something that is organized from disorganized, raw, chaotic bulk, and then get those listed onto the different platforms that I sell on in an efficient way, keeping them organized, and then keeping them organized on the shelf so that later when someone buys them, it's easy to go and grab the cards. Now, scaling all that manually is challenging. I have done it. That's how I started out. I didn't start out with any of these tools. I was doing everything by hand and organizing things on a desktop. So it is possible, but it is really easy to run up against the wall of just how much labor you can put out in a particular time period. So that's the challenge, right? So instead of manually hand sorting out things, if you have a tool that can sort things for you, if you have a tray that you can sort things in, that can help you save time. If you have a AI tool that can create eBay listings for you, then it becomes much easier to list on eBay. You can go from listing 20 or 30 cards a day to listing 200 to 300 cards a day easily. And similarly with TCG Player, if you're typing in every card name on the inventory tab, then it's going to take you a certain amount of time to list every individual card. But if you have other tools, then you can list hundreds or thousands in a day without it being a giant onerous process that keeps you from doing anything else ever. Okay, so here's the process that I go through for my bulk. This is the current process as of Thanksgiving 2024. It's a little bit different than it has been, but first I take the raw bulk that comes in boxes, usually like this, or those over there. Those are all Vice Shores I just haven't gotten through yet. Been picking through them but a little bit, but anyway, they come over here. The raw bulk gets separated out by game. Usually it's all one game, but it gets separated out. Then for the big three games, it runs through the card bot and gets sifted for the higher value cards. You see I've just finished a sift of some tokens. Found some good ones, including I think that was just a misidentified one. These Construct tokens are a couple bucks. These Dragon tokens from Alara are like $4. Anyway, this is before we condition it. We just pull out the higher value stuff. This emblem here from Mythic Edition is like $15, so that's exciting. Would not have found that quickly had we just been listing it, separating it out. So once it's sifted, so I've got this box here, it's set up. Cards on this side are to be sifted, raw to sift. And then once they're sifted and all the valuable cards are pulled out, higher value cards, it goes over here. You can see I've done a bunch of Pokemon here, and these are sifted bulk, ready to sort. And then the next step is the sorting. So I've got, this is a whole bunch of Zendikar Rising cards that are currently being alphabetized. But I've also got these cards here have been set alpha sorted, so everything in this tab is all from a set that starts with the same letter, and then this tab is all sets that start with the same letter. These are I for Innistrad and Ixalan and Invasion, and that's Ixalan. So Anyway, so there's set alpha sorting done here. I use my sorting tray. Uh, and then alphabetization done here. And then once they're alphabetized, we take them inside to get listed. So this here is the interface for the cardbot on the back end. And I wanted to show you this because it's the easiest way to explain the couple of different ways that I tend to use the cardbot to help speed up my processes. So in that first step of the bulk processing is everything that is in the big three games, or at least in Magic and Pokemon, because Yu-Gi-Oh is still in early beta on Cardbot. But anything Magic and Pokemon will go into the Cardbot and get sifted for value. And the way I do that, there's all these different options here. So this is the top of the page. It's my most recent scan. But there's all these options here of different things that it can sort for. And the first one is the price range. The first one I use is the price range. And you can put in a minimum price and a maximum price. If you wanted to sort out everything that was under a quarter, or everything that was over $1, or everything between $2.25 and $7.14, or whatever, that's how you do it. So I sift out everything that's worth $2 or more. And that's just how I do that. And then I would start the scan. And that's how I got those tokens that were sorted out that I showed you just a couple minutes ago. Then once I have a big pile of bulk that is sorted out, or that's been sifted, once I have a big pile of bulk that's been sifted, the next step for that is to sort it into sets, and that usually takes a couple of steps. With Magic, I typically do an alpha set sort, so I'll put everything in A that are sets that begin with A, Amonkhet, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, things like that, and then B will be Battle Bond and Battle for Zendikar and things like that. That doesn't work quite as well with Pokemon because of the way the set names are. So what I would typically do is try and either directly set sort them just because it's a smaller number of sets, or I will try and lump them into groups. So like everything before Sword and Shield, and then Sword and Shield, and then Scarlet and Violet, or something like that. And then you can put a big pile in and have it search by the set name. So if we were doing Magic and I was doing the letter I could have it pull out everything that was Innistrad Crimson Vow, right? And then and then it would just reject everything else, and then what I would be left over with is a stack that is only cards from Crimson Vow. And then I could run it back through again for Midnight Hunt, and I can just do that for the biggest 2 or 3 sets that are in the pile, and then I'll have that pulled out for me, and I can work on other things while I'm doing that, while it's doing that, so that I don't have to tie myself down to that. It's just takes some of that burden off of me. All I got to do is load it in, select the right things, and it'll get it done in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, just depending on how many cards I have to put in. So the cardbot works great for that kind of thing. There are a few things it doesn't work very good for. Some cards it doesn't detect super well. The biggest issue I've had with them is the old white bordered Magic cards. Those I usually just do by hand so far. Other limitations of it is just the binary sort is the biggest limitation, but like I said, the way I work around that is I only pick things that I want it to pull out, chunks of, so that it's not like running 800 cards in to pull 2 cards out, and then running 798 cards through again to pull out 5 more cards and things like that. So I try and pick out so that it's pulling out as much of at least half of the stack that's available as possible. Using AI to identify cards based on the images from the cards has come a long way in the last few years. The cardbot uses that technology, or their version of that technology, to do its job. But for the actual listing process, I prefer to use a couple of other tools. For TCG Player, currently I'm list bulk with Quick List Plus, which is their new version of Quick List. It's still in beta. I'm in like a closed beta for it, but it works really well for my purposes so far. They don't really want me to talk too much about it in specific right now because it is in that closed beta, and if a bug comes up or something like that, they don't want me or anyone else to really complain about it because it's still an actively being built tool. But like I said, for what I'm working with, it works pretty well. And for eBay, I also use an AI card identification tool called Card Dealer Pro. I did a video about that a few months ago, and here's that right there if you want to go look at that. And it works pretty well as well. It doesn't just do sports cards, which is how it started out. It does TCGs and non-sports cards now too. So it'll work with all your old Marvel cards or your Star Wars cards from the 70s or all that kind of stuff. So I'm really getting a lot out of both of those tools right now. I am still actively looking for ways to improve my process for listing onto my own website, to my WooCommerce shop. But I do have a couple of tools that I use for that. One is a plugin, which I'll have a link to in the description here, that allows you to modify your inventory with a spreadsheet that's built into the backend, which really helps out. I can run a bunch of cards through the scanner for Quick List Plus and get a CSV file that I can then copy columns out of directly into this spreadsheet, rather than having to create a new listing for each individual card. I can even get a filtered CSV from TCG Player for an entire set and drop the whole thing in there, and then as I get cards I can just upload images and quantities, so that again it's really makes it a lot faster for me. I'm also actively working on creating spreadsheets that allow me to track my inventory across all my platforms in one central location. That is a process that is still continuing to be built, so I don't have that nailed down yet, but I'm sure I'll put another video out about that before too long once I settle on a idea for that, how that's going to work for me. And finally, I use a tool called M2E Cloud, and I'll have a link for them as well. And what that lets me do is it lets me cross list from eBay over to my WooCommerce store. So sometimes you'll see things on my eBay that are also on the WooCommerce store. And it's literally taking the same listing and dropping it into WooCommerce or back again the other direction. That allows me to have cards, the higher end cards that I'm wanting to have in front of the eyeballs on eBay, but still have them available on the website for you guys who are more directly tied to wanting to shop from me. And it's the same card, but it may be a little cheaper on the website, and I get a reduction in my fee cost. So that's the benefit for me, and also just more traffic to the website is better for me. So that's a tool that I'm using for that, and it's a little unintuitive. I'm sure I'll do a video about that specific tool before too long once I get that process nailed down. But that is another tool that I'm using that helps the business out. So in the long run, why all this matters is that it saves time quite a bit. Having the tools do some of that work for me, or streamline some of those processes or things like that, really saves time. It makes it so that there's a lot less chance that I'm going to make a mistake. So I'm not going to accidentally type in the wrong column and things like that I've got 10 copies of Kozilek when I actually had 10 copies of Kozilek's Return, right? It also means that I can do a lot of these extra things without having to scale by means of hiring people. It would be a lot harder, or a lot more difficult, or a lot more costly to train up 3 people to do a lot of these things and scale that way. The tools let me scale a lot more on my own, and then I'll be in a better position to hire people later when I need to hire more people, when these tools stop being able to push me further along. So do you have any objections to any of these kinds of tools? Comment and I'll try and address them for you. Are there any processes in your card business that you would like to automate that you don't currently have a tool or a process or an idea for? let me know. I'll try and give you an idea or help you out with something. I've looked into lots and lots and lots of these different things over the last couple of years, and this is where I'm sitting at right now. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you found it useful, then share it with somebody else. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.